Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. We've got a new unboxing. This one is the DC Comics icons, Grail and Darkseid. Is it Darkseid or Darkseid? But whatever. Figures that will be out soon in stores. Now, for those who don't know who the characters are, basically Darkseid, whatever, is the ruler of the world called Apocalypse. Just this intergalactic warlord who goes from world to world, just conquering them and destroying them and building a bigger army. He's got the power of the anti-life equation. These beams kind of go out of his eyes and go all over the place, and they hit you and you die. Grail is the actual really interesting character. She came to prominence in the Justice League war that ran from like Justice League, the last volume of Justice League, like issue like 40-ish to about 52. Her story is that she is an Amazon. She was born around the same time as Wonder Woman. Her father's actually Darkseid, and her whole thing was going to destroy him and then eventually try to take him over. And wound up being this huge epic battle, an awesome story that I highly recommend you go check out. But let's open up and show off these two figures. I mean, to say that the one is massive is an understatement. But hopefully when we take him out of the box, it'll be a bit more apparent as to how big he really is. Because when I first saw this figure, I said, holy crap, is he huge. Now, the big thing we're going to be looking for is what's the articulation on the large figure. And, you know, what can we do with him, as well as what accessories we're looking at for him. Alrighty. So, as I said, this figure is huge. Take him out of the box. Alright, let's go with this first. I remember back in the day, toys weren't the point that you needed a rocket science degree to be able to get them out of the packaging. That was nice. So as I said, so the storyline for Justice League War, well, let's talk about that a little bit while I open this up. Why I'm like so excited for this is, one, these are two badass villains. So basically Grail got the anti-monitor to come and destroy Darkseid, and then she wound up capturing his essence in this like baby child and resurrecting him. So now she controls all this power, and it's kind of this left open story that we haven't gotten the resolution to, because there is a baby Darkseid out there somewhere, and Grail is just kind of hanging out and chilling. So she'll be back eventually as a major villain, because she got a hell of a lot of power out of this. Other cool things that happened during the event is the superheroes wound up getting powers of the gods. So Superman went to Apocalypse and he got supercharged and wound up being this like white crackling energy version of himself, which was pretty badass. Batman got the Mobius chair, so he got all knowledge and didn't quite go crazy from it. I'm trying to think who else. The Flash wound up being fused with what is pretty much the Angel of Death. And that was actually pretty sweet. I forgot what the big deal was with the Hal Jordan, but he got infused with something, and then a couple others did as well. So you had all these superheroes kind of running around with power of gods, which didn't go over super well with other folks, but they needed it to go and kind of fight Grail and her minions. Steve Trevor wound up getting taken over. As I said, it was a badass story. Alright, so we got the figure finally out of packaging, and let's look at it. So, as far as movement, waist kind of moves back and forth. He pivots a little bit at the shoulders. The head moves a little, but not as much as you'd think. Arms, shoulder pads seem to move up and down, which is helpful to move his arm out. Elbows move, wrists move, legs, knees move, ankles move. We got the ball joints at the hips. Lower legs move. When I say this figure is heavy and huge, it is not an exaggeration or an understatement. This figure is probably one of the biggest I've ever had in my collection. The best way I can describe him is it feels like a really large Transformer. Great. Stands up on his own, no help needed. I think that's a good sign for the figure. Alright, what do we have for him? We don't have tons as far as accessories, but we do have some hands. So just like a lot of the DC collector's figures, we can go and replace his hands. This one actually pops out really easy, which is nice. So we can see him and have very dramatic pose with his hands up. Kind of a apocalypse pose, if you ask me. Awesome figure. This is really, really cool. Things that stand out to me beyond just the articulation and how heavy this figure is the painting is actually really solid. I don't know how well it's going to come out on the video itself, but it's not just straight up blue. There's some nice shading, especially around the abdomen. On the legs, there's some good shading. Small details on the boots. The boots aren't straight up like black. There's a little silver on there, and there's actually like damage around the boot, which I think it looks really, really great. You can actually see some silver showing up right around here. Overall, really great figure in my opinion. I think there's tons of detail. The face is badass, if you ask me. The sculpting is really top-notch. You get that look of anger on it, and he just kind of looks like he's about to kick some ass. So overall, really, really, really solid looking figure, and just solid in general. So now let's look at Grail. Hopefully she's just as easy to get out. You can see them just next to each other as to how minuscule she is. And she's like a regular size figure, regular size scale figure in this like DC Icon, DC Collectible line of figures. So, you know, he's gonna look awesome next to the rest of your collection. And she's gonna fit in really well as well. It's way easier to cut this. Instead of fighting with her. As I said, remember the day when it wasn't super difficult to get these out. Alright, let's go with the initial figure thoughts. And what do we notice? Alright, head pivots really, really well. Full range of motion. You can do some Linda Blair action on it. Shoulders, ball joints, move in full range. Really good. Elbow changes. Wrist pivots. Can move the wrist up and down as well. Waist. There's some movement at the waist, a little bit at the torso. So that is really good. Legs. She does some splits. Knees bend really well. Ankles move really well. A little bit of a twist to it, but not maybe as much as others. Now here's the big test. Will she stand on her own? And the answer is yes. I was able to get her to stand on her own. I think it's a big deal. We've seen some figures where that's just not the case, and you wind up having to carry them around. Alright, let's see what else we've got for accessories. We've got her cape, which is pretty cool. Let's go pop her head off to go put her cape on. So we've got her like that. Of course, it diminishes her ability to move her arms a little bit, but that's fine. It's kind of not the point of it. We also have some hands that can change. We got 2 pairs of other hands and this big blade, which this hand will not fit in, but she can definitely hold this in one of the other pairs of hands. Put some size comparison on that. Overall, let's go look here as far as the details of her. So looking at the details of the figure itself, her eyes look pretty decent. It's pretty much straight red. There's no like pupils or anything. And from the comics, that's what I vaguely remember being the case. She's got like a choker on that is 3D. It's not painted on, which is pretty solid. The painting's really good for the gauntlets. We can see all the dots are there. None of the paint kind of bleeds over at all. So that looks really good. Of course, we got the arm kind of straps for the gauntlet, which look good. As far as the kind of abdomen area, we've got good detail there with the design that's straight out of the comics, with the dots colored really well and some fine details with the lines. Of course, we've got kind of like these side, I don't know what you would call them, with some good coloring, and the boots all look really, really well as well. As far as the paint on this figure, nothing seems to kind of be bleeding over or looking bad at all. Really impressed with it. So I think both figures are really solid. They do a great job, a great continuation as a set. I think they're absolutely fantastic. You know, this is a figure that I've wanted ever since I saw it. So thank you, DC Collectibles, for the hookup and be able to show this off and go over this. This set is out soon on shelves, and we'll have links where you can go and order it. They may or may not be affiliate links. Who knows what we'll find when we look around. But as I said, thank you for DC Collectibles. And thank you for watching. This is Graphic Policy Television GPTV. If you want more news about DC Comics, DC Collectibles, you should go check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. Of course, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all at Graphic Policy, keeping it nice and consistent. So until next time, don't let the anti-life equation hit you. Just keep it geeky.